Good morning, everyone. I'm Trudy Marotta. I'm a volunteer community ambassador with AARP Virginia, and I want to welcome you to our 6th Scam Jam. AARP is active in many arenas that support individuals as they approach and enter into their retirement years. Retirement security is a main focus, and AARP wants to make sure that our seniors have sufficient resources so that they don't outlive their financial and their golden years and live them out in poverty. Another focus is preventing financial schemes and other scams that target today's older adults. Today's virtual event and in-person event, Stay One Step Ahead of the Scammers, is a joint effort between AARP Virginia and Fairfax County government's Silver Shield Task Force to share information with you and the tools to recognize scams and frauds to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your neighbors. No matter where you live, fraud is never too far behind, but you can protect yourself by knowing what to watch out for and to share your information with others if you have encountered a fraud or a scam. There are a number of ways that AARP can help you with that. You can go online to aarp.org and sign up for the Fraud Watch alerts delivered right to your inbox. There you will also see our scam tracking map so that you can learn the reported scams in your area and across the country. AARP Fraud Watch Network provides alerts, tips, and resources, and it's all free for everyone. There's also a toll-free number where you can talk to trained volunteers for more information and resources if you or someone you know has been a victim of a fraud or a scam. You can also like AARP Fraud Watch Network on Facebook to get the latest information on frauds and scams. You can also go to our free podcast wherever you download your favorite podcast. Ours is called The Perfect Scam and has many 30-minute episodes, including interviews with both con artists and law enforcement experts discussing how scammers operate and tips to guard against becoming their next target. Planning and organizing events like this sometimes takes a village. So please allow me to thank Jennifer Tisano of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute for allowing us to use this facility and the technical expertise to make this happen as well. And first, it's our pleasure to introduce from Congressman Gerry Connolly's office, Marlon DeBiase. Senator Connolly is with the 11th district, and he is responsible for shaping policy on issues including information, technology, and cybersecurity. So Marlon, if you'd come welcome our group.
Thank you, Trudy. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marlon DeBiase, and I'm the district director for Congressman Gerry Connolly. Fortunately, the congressman had an unexpected conflict, but sends his best wishes. But you know, we're happy to be here and represent this great community in Fairfax County and talk about a very important issue. And unfortunately, many of our community members are victims of scams. The Federal Trade Commission reported that consumers lost $2.6 billion in scams just last year. Over half was targeted to the older generation, and that was at 1.7 billion. So of course, as most older generation folks are being targeted for these scams, and as we close out on tax season, it's important to highlight some of the scams in disguise. And so the IRS imposter scams can involve messages and calls, but they're often emails or text messages which the IRS will never contact you by. So if you get a text or an email from the IRS, it is a high likelihood that that is a scam, but that is one of the main scam providers that have a front for the federal government. So as we move forward with technological advances, it is important to find different ways to combat this. The congressman last Congress helped enact the Senior Fraud Prevention Act, So this bill directs the Federal Trade Commission to establish an office within the Consumer Protection Agency to advise the FTC on preventing fraud targeting seniors. Also, the Congressman helped enact the Stop Senior Scams Act, which this is a bill that establishes a senior scams prevention advisory group, which creates a model of educational materials to help educate employees in financial service companies. So as we continue to build federal infrastructure meant to prevent fraud against seniors and serve as a resource to victims, we need to continue to hold those that we find guilty accountable. So there's still a lot more that we need to do, but we're happy to be here again. In our office, every year hosts a senior issues forum where scams and fraud is one of the main topics, and that will be held in the fall. The county and AARP both partner with us for that. So, happy to get that information out as we continue to develop that program for this year. But again, thank you so much for having us today, and I hope you all have a great program.
We are also delighted to have Virginia State Senator Chap Petersen with us today, representing the 34th District. Now I got that one correct. Senator Petersen has represented Fairfax County in the Virginia Senate since 2008. Chap, please join us.
Thank you, Trudy, and good morning, everybody. And I do represent the 34th Senate District for about 3 more months or 6 more months, and then I'll be moving to the 37th Senate District. I actually will not be moving. I'll have same house, same wife, same kids, same dog. But the map makers, who are infinitely wiser than me, have decided that the 34th has seen enough of me. And so I will be representing Fairfax City, Vienna, Tyson's Corner, Falls Church, and kind of all the area in between. So I picked up Tyson's Corner and the Mosaic. So my wife told me I had to go out and get a new wardrobe because I sort of had this single family, residential dad thing going on. And now that's not necessarily the vibe, but you know what? I'm 55, so it's hard to change. But anyways, listen, let me talk a little bit about this issue. And by the way, on a different time, I'd love to come back and talk about prescription drug reform, because that's something that AARP and I worked together with in Richmond. We got a bill out of the Senate, 26-13 with Republican support, which would have significantly reduced prescription drug costs in Virginia, both for Medicaid, which is a state taxpayer obligation, and also in the private market. So we're going to come back and have a talk about that, because that's something I'll be reintroducing. My real job is I'm an attorney. I tell people being a senator, it sounds important, but it's really part-time. It only pays $18,000 a year. We're in session 60 days of the year. So the other 305 days I'm in private practice. And one of the themes in my practice has been representing people, representing families who have been deceived, defrauded, embezzled, you name it. And sometimes it borders on criminal conduct. Sometimes it's just a contractor walks in, gets paid, walks off the job, you name it. There's a gray area all the way in between. And all I can tell you is the rule of thumb is always use due diligence and always bring in a third party to verify the transaction. And let me give you an example. Years ago, I represented a home builder. He was a gentleman who was in his 70s. He had built homes all over Northern Virginia. So he was someone who at least considered himself a sophisticated businessman. And he was approached by the son of a former partner who sort of enticed him with a chance to invest in a mine out in Nevada. And you put the money in and you'll get your money back plus 25% in 6 months. You know how it goes. And it was a significant investment. It was $500,000. And the son owned a beautiful house in Loudoun County and said, look, I'll put a deed of trust in my house with your name on it. And they prepared the deed of trust. So my client thought, oh, well, I'm protected. Well, it turned out the house already had 2 other deeds of trust on it. So that deed of trust had no value whatsoever. And it turned out the money that he wired to this young man to buy this mining interest within 24 hours had been wired into a gambling cage in Las Vegas to pay off a gambling debt. And we found all this out months later when I filed suit and took discovery and basically found out this was a long-running scam that had been going on. I referred it to the Commonwealth's attorney. Eventually, it turned out that this person had been doing these scams all over. He actually ended up doing time in federal prison. And it was really tough to see that someone who had worked their whole life, mostly with their hands, lost that money that fast, because that was a significant share of his retirement. So my advice is, and by the way, I'm 55. My mom is 81. My dad passed a few years ago. My advice is, when someone approaches you with a transaction, first, be skeptical. Secondly, always bring in a third party, preferably a professional. Doesn't have to be an attorney, although it should be, but someone who can just put a fresh set of eyes on it. If someone's offering you a short-term gain, it's almost always not credible. Okay. And I tell people, I believe in the free enterprise system. I've invested in properties, I've invested in companies, I've invested in myself. But typically I put my money with people I trust. Okay. Because that way I know where it is. And I trust them. So again, I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard before, other than just use common sense. That's kind of a theme I use in my life and with my children. I got 4 of them. I know y'all probably got a lot of kids out there too, or grandkids. But thanks again for coming. I apologize. I'm dressed a little bit informally. I got my old football coaching shirt on, but I'll be out door knocking today. And no, I don't wear the bow tie on weekends. Okay, everybody asking me that. Come on, guys, give me a break. All right, thank you again for inviting me. AARP is an awesome organization. I'm really proud to be here, and thank you again for letting me speak. God bless you.
Thanks. Although he couldn't be with us in person today, Fairfax County's lead district supervisor and chairman of our Board of Supervisors, Jeff McKay, has sent a welcome video. And Mike, if you could pull that up for me now.
Morning, and thank you for joining us for the 6th annual Scam Jam event. While I am unable to be with you in person today, this does not lessen the value that I place on protecting the safety and security of our residents, people like you and your families. Studies are showing a nationwide increase in cases and complaints related to financial fraud and exploitation. In fact, newly released Federal Trade Commission data shows that consumers reported losing nearly $8.8 billion to fraud in 2022 alone, an increase of more than 30% over the previous year. These scams come in many forms, from investor scams to imposter scams, many of which you'll learn more about how to recognize and how to avoid during today's event. And while we all recognize that our most vulnerable neighbors are certainly at greater risk, it's important to remember that anyone can fall victim to these scams if they are not educated about them. As attendees of our previous events have likely heard, we believe that protecting our older population begins with education. That's why in 2017 we launched Silver Shield, our all-inclusive campaign aimed at educating various groups in the community, older adults, families of seniors, residents, caregivers, and the general public. Our team has participated in over 250 events, which have touched about 52,000 people across the county. These events have included home and remodeling shows, community events around National Consumer Protection Week, and various in-person and virtual events like the one you're taking part in today. Your presence here, whether it be at the OLLI Mason campus or watching online from home, is an important step in protecting yourself. I hope you walk away today feeling empowered to recognize and avoid scams and fraud, and to talk to others to help them become better aware as well. Thank you for being a part of this, and enjoy today's Scam Jam.
Thank you, Mike. We also have here live in person Fairfax County Supervisor Pat Herrity, representing the Springfield District. Supervisor Herrity was instrumental in setting up the Silver Shield Fraud Prevention Task Force. He also serves as chair of the board of Older Adults Committees. So Supervisor Herrity, share the mic with me.
Thank you very much, Trudy. And I'm going to try to follow instructions and keep this real short so we get on to hearing from the experts. But it's great to be back here every year. I try to make this event every year because it is so important. As chairman of the Older Adults Committee, it's been my priority to help our older adults and kind of lead the board's response to the aging population that we have here in Fairfax County. In scams, as our surveys show, are one of the big concerns of all of our older adults, which is why programs like this are so important. Silver Shield and the Scam Jam came out of the award-winning 50+ Community Action Plan, which we helped create and the board approved. And we're now working on Shape the Future of Aging Plan. It is a priority in that plan as well. So you've got the board's continuing commitment to addressing this. Obviously, whenever I think of older adults, I start with my mom. And as much as we tried to keep her from being scammed, she fell victim to a scam. Fortunately for her, it was only $600. And she wrote my sister into it, and she lost another $600, which that was the harder one to understand. Sorry, Mary Beth, I shouldn't have said that. But you're going to hear, you just heard from Chap, and then you're going to hear cases later today, $900,000 in Fairfax County. It is serious, and it is bad when we have seniors that lose their entire life savings. So I'm going to cut that and just go with thanks. I want to thank AARP in Fairfax County Silver Shield Task Force for sponsoring this event, bringing it together. Our wonderful Fairfax County Police Department, Fairfax Adult Protective Services, the FBI, U.S. Postal Service, all of whom have helped make this event possible today. I'm going to hang around a bit and learn something because I always learn something from this event. I've already learned a few things and I will continue to. Also want to thank OLLI for all the great work that they do out in our community, and we're working on getting them more out into our community as we work to address other senior issues in our community. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for all of you online, and have a great program.
And last but not least, we also have Fairfax County Supervisor James Walkinshaw representing the Braddock District. James also serves as Vice Chairman on the Older Adults and Public Safety Committees. James, come join me.
Well, thank you, Trudy, and thank you all for coming out today. I want to welcome you to the Braddock District. I'm so fortunate to represent really a spectrum of aging services in the Braddock District, including first and foremost OLLI, of course. We recently, just last year, opened a Senior Wellness Center at Braddock Glen. Wonderful facility for seniors to educate themselves and get health screenings and all kinds of amazing things happening there. You have seen, if you've driven on Braddock Road recently, the rapid construction of Woodley Chase active retirement community. I told my wife, the good news is we never have to leave the Braddock District. We can move from our home in Annandale to Woodley Chase, and across the street is a Fairfax Memorial Funeral Home. So when the time comes, just wheel me across Braddock Road, and she might have other ideas as to what she'll be doing at that time. But, when we talk about aging, I always quote Henry Ford, and Henry Ford got a few things wrong in his life, but he got this right. He said, anyone who keeps learning is young, and anyone who stops learning is old. And those of you who are participating with AARP or with OLLI, congratulations, you are young because you're still learning and you're here today to learn. And this is such an important topic, as Supervisor Herrity said. right here in Fairfax County in the Braddock district, I have a constituent who in 2021 was scammed out of $150,000. And that case is still pending. Unlikely they're going to recover that money. We've seen a sophisticated grandparent scam in which victims are led to believe they have to pay a ransom to keep their grandchildren out of jail or harm. Think of anything more disgusting and despicable than that. There's an ongoing scam where scammers who pretend to be law enforcement or court personnel call residents and say they owe fines for missing jury duty that they did not actually miss. And residents have paid the fines, unfortunately, to scammers, or they show up to the courthouse wondering when they're supposed to serve on that jury. We've seen shopping scams, prize, sweepstakes and lottery scams, internet service scams, and false business and job opportunity scams. And that's why the work of Silver Shield and the work that you all are doing here today is so important. I want to thank Melissa, who coordinates the Silver Shield Awareness Program for Fairfax County. She has a tough game of whack-a-mole to play every year with these different scams and raising awareness. But I can tell you that Fairfax County and the Board of Supervisors are committed to working to protect older adults from these scams. I'm very proud that in the 4 years that I've been on the board, we have increased funding for aging services by nearly 25%. And when we adopt the budget, I think on Tuesday, we're going to continue those increases because we recognize how important it is to work with our older adults and protect them from these scams. So thank you all for coming out today. Thank you for participating in this process. And thank you to AARP for organizing it.
So let me introduce you to my partner in crime for the past 6 years. This is our 6th annual Scam Jam, and Melissa Small has put up with me in organizing this. When I say it takes a village, it definitely takes a village, and AARP could not do it without the help of Melissa and the Silver Shield team. So let me have Melissa join us. Melissa Small is branch chief with Fairfax County's Land Development Services, and as part of the public outreach program is the coordinator of Fairfax County's Silver Shield Task Force. Tell us more about the task force, Melissa.
Thank you very much. I think it's already been talked about because of all the other speakers, but I will delve in a little bit more. Thank you to the Board of Supervisors. They are the ones that actually got us all together. We have 9 different departments that are helping us in Fairfax County, including AARP. So what we've been doing, other than virtual events and in-person events, the Scam Jam that's been so important to us, we are actually also helping the Fairfax County Police investigate these complaints. So I have an inspector who helps with building code complaints with the contractors who are taking money from our individuals. I've sat in court with them over the last 10 years. Again, the police are the lead investigators. We actually have a case right now that is going to court in 2 weeks, and the man was taken for $900,000. And my inspector determined, along with the police, that none of the work actually is of value, and they've actually created problems in his house. So he's going to have to get those fixed at some point. They convened a interjurisdictional grand jury this past summer, and they were trying to get as much information as they could because there were some reluctant witnesses. So they said, you know what, we'll just do this interjurisdictional grand jury, and they were able to get the information they needed to move on. So I want to thank my partners. I'm with Land Development Services. We have folks from Neighborhood and Community Services, the Department of Family Services, Department of Cable and Consumer Services, the Fairfax County Courts. They've come on in the last year, and they've been instrumental in getting us information about what's happening at the courthouse, because they have people who come to their counters who are needing help and have maybe be scammed or, help prevent scams. The Department of Emergency Management and Security, especially with hurricanes and natural disasters, they get information out because contractors will come from across the country to, if it's in Virginia or a different state on the East Coast where a natural disaster has occurred, they're going to travel the country to scam our folks. Of course, the Fairfax County Police Department, we can't do it without them. The Department of Public Works and Environmental Services, they've actually helped the police on tree complaints, because that somehow these scams start with going door to door, is starting with tree scams. Either the tree is too big and it's going to fall on your house, or the limbs are going to affect your gutters. So they actually have helped the police investigate those complaints. So it's been a real great, or time that we've been able to get other organizations to help our police department. So like everybody has said, it takes a village. It will take a village. Where, we have a long way to go, and I'm excited about today's program. So thank you for coming both virtually and in person. And thanks again.